Hey y'all, this is Sirel, and you're listening to It's a Surreal Life. This is the space where your story rises and your power speaks. Together, we rewrite the story that was handed to you, and then we step into the one you were meant to live. Listener discretion is advised. And just like animals, we have instinct, we have intuition, and we have a nervous system that's crying and reaching for our attention. So it's time that we get regulated.
I love that you said that about the animals. I love to teach people to be more feral, be more primal. Our nervous systems are just like animals. And when animals get in danger or face an attack or something happens, they run, they shake it out, they get that survival energy off of them. So the next time they're about to get attacked by something else, they don't remember that. They're not like, oh, their system doesn't automatically go into that because they get the survival energy out where we don't. So in somatic work, we do a lot of dancing, movement, shaking, to like if I'm having a bad morning, that's what I do. I dance it out and I shake it out. And just like an animal, we are meant to like move and breathe and let out noises. And we just hold all of that stuff in.
Yeah. So let's like, can we pinpoint this to one institution in particular that I'm very passionate about? And that's our our school system, the public school system. So the contrast of this is the school system is, and I understand the reason behind it. So I want to be very transparent here that this is not an attack on our educators or, on the people that are so passionate about developing our children, and teaching them and educating them. This is more about the fundamentals that have been instilled into these school systems. So teachers are also seeking, I think, opportunity to understand this. And I think what happened is the school systems were built to be able to maintain and handle capacity of, a lot of children. And in their mind's eye, what seemed practical was order, quiet, sit down, you because chaos in the mind does not create safety, right? But you think about this as far as like movement and vocals. A lot of those main sensory points of our nervous system are shut the fuck down before we even get into middle school.
Yeah, we're told to be quiet a lot, even at home as kids. Yeah. And humming is like one of the best ways to just to bring yourself in a little regulated state if you're stuck in like a not really good regulated state or not if you're up here and you're sympathetic and you need to come down some into your parasympathetic, humming and your breath work and letting out big sighs, those are all big ways to do it. And you have kids in their desk just they need to move.
They're fidgeting, they're moving, they're reaching here. My son was telling me a story yesterday. He goes, "Mom, I really feel bad for this one kid in my class." And I said, "Really? Why?" He goes, "It's just every time, if our teacher is talking for too long, he gets really antsy and he'll start reaching for things in his desk. And sometimes he'll like make a blurp out of his mouth. And my teacher says he's a big distraction. And then my teacher will just be like, call the person's name and say, out of my classroom." And then that child has to go sit in the hallway or in the pod by themselves. And that just, first of all, I don't know, like that is so normal.
Yeah.
And then I have my child who is the most connected to his nervous system. If you want to talk about, yes, the teacher might be smarter, but my son is more connected to his nervous system. And that experience alone that doesn't even apply to him excuse me, it affects him, and he knows that it's not correct, and he knows that that child is alone and isn't getting the proper understanding of why his body feels that way.
Mm.
you, you know. And so I love just how connected you are, because the way that you explain and you express this identity within ourselves, this relationship within ourselves, the anatomy, I'm like, we could put a room full of teachers, and I feel like you could have this course where
Mm-hmm.
teachers then learn their own nervous system and how to regulate themselves, because they're holding a huge responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So like
And
teachers have to have the capacity to be able to co-regulate, to be able to understand the functions of our anatomy and how kids develop outside of logic,
mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Just imagine if we were taught about nervous systems at a young age and taught regulation tools like in schools, you know? Yeah. I feel like
Yeah,
there's
because
so
it's
much
more than
crime for prevention and suicide prevention and mental health prevention and addiction prevention if we learn at a young age. I teach my granddaughter, she's 4. And when she has big feelings, we talk about where they might be in her body, and she shakes it out a lot. When she gets mad, she breathes after her
mm,
attitude, but she breathes.
yeah, that those expressions, they're not disrespect, I promise.
Mhm.
That's what I had to remind myself with my children, is like, it's not disrespect. And trust me, I was the parent that was like, don't talk to me like that.
Me
You
too.
don't you don't disrespect me.
Mhm.
And it's like, why did I put a label on that? Why do I feel that they're doing that to me?
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. We do what we know until we know better. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because I was that mom too a lot of times.
Yeah. So, how
Mhm.
would you explain the nervous system to someone, that has experienced a lot of trauma?
So you have a line of regulation. Like you're a line of regulation, and your nervous system is supposed to titrate up and down. I know everybody can't see me. So just imagine a line going across and then a heartbeat kind of like going up and down. And then in the top, you have your sympathetic nervous system. This can be anything from anxiety to excitement to orgasms. I mean, anything that spikes your nervous system to go up here. And then down here, you have your parasympathetic nervous system. And this is your rest and digest state. And this is where a lot of us never go. We stay up here. We stay stressed out. We stay in chaos. We stay in bad relationships. We stay, whatever the thing may be for us, we tend to stay up here. And when we do come to the bottom, to the parasympathetic, we usually go into depression or into a bad state or into a freeze. A lot of people live in a functional freeze state. I tend to slip back into it very easily, where you're functioning, you're going with emotions, you're doing all the things, but you're not feeling anything. Like, you're just numb to most things. So once you start, your nervous system, if you're dysregulated, is either living way up here, or it can even go up and down with big spikes, but there's no heartbeat across the line of regulation. So, in other words, there's no capacity for you to hold bad things and have a good day at the same time. But once you
Mm.
start regulating, you can do those things. You can hold bad things and you can still have a good day. You can cry it out in the morning and 10 minutes later be okay and go about your day, feel good, Like I said earlier, I'm dealing with some heavy, heavy things right now in my life, is a little bit chaotic. And but I'm standing, and I'm okay and I feel good and I have good days. I allow myself to feel it when it comes up, though, even if that means an afternoon in bed and some extra rest. This is really a time of the year where we need to rest more as well. And if you start coming back into your body and you start making this relationship with your nervous system, you're going to start coming out of survival mode and you are going to be tired because you have held yourself up in this survival mode for so long. So, my advice is just to really meet yourself where you are with that. Meet your nervous system exactly where you are, like with no judgment, no shame. Normalize what's going on for your system. Yeah.
That is so good. And that's the simplicity of it.
Yes, very much.
Yes. Hello. So, welcome to another episode of Staying Regulated. This episode, we're going to cover what trauma actually means in the body. So, the difference between a traumatic event and chronic stress, right? How trauma reshapes perception, behavior, and relationships, and why people are not overreacting. They are responding. And I know how that is. My husband better not tell me I'm overreacting because I might overreact. No, just kidding.
But truly, that's what everybody's out here overreacting, but their nervous systems are just protecting themselves. And you have so many
They're
relationships that suffer because of past relationships, and when an argument starts, the trauma in the body shows up. And then you're in an argument because of a past. You don't realize that, but subconsciously that's what's going on. You're being triggered.
Mhm.
And that's in all
Yeah.
relationships, not just romantic relationships, any relationship.
I mean, I think this is really a very vital topic because when you talk about relationships, there's relationship to self, there's relationship, with your children, there's relationship with your neighbor, with your peers, with your colleagues, so like relationship is essentially we're human, right? We develop the best in pack form. So we need community. We need our villages. We need our support systems. And the contrast of that, sometimes I see competition, I see bullying, I see the sisterhood wound. Like there's so many things in the relationship realm where I feel like the nervous system is disconnected. So let's dive into that.
The difference between trauma and chronic stress, I think we're going to talk about that for a little bit. Trauma can happen, it's when a big event happens that's a traumatic event, it's like it's a etch, a sketch in your nervous system. It stays there, it sticks there. So men get from more from one big event. People have car wrecks and get, traumatized when your house is robbed, fires. There's lots of different ways where you can get one big event and have major trauma from it. And then you have chronic stress. So this is whenever you keep your body and your nervous system and yourself in something that is traumatic for too long. That's something that's too hard for too long. So I look at this because I was in a lot of domestic violence relationships, and that is exactly the definition of this, whether it's emotional abuse or physical abuse. You're allowing your nervous system to be talked down to constantly, to be all the hatefulness that gets thrown at you, the put downs, that every single time it's staying in your nervous system. So you come out of this relationship feeling unworthy, unloved, and pretty much like your life, you don't know who you are anymore. It takes you away from you in a lot of ways. That's why so many women and men, you see a lot more women though, are so disconnected with their bodies and have CPTSD and they're out here doing the things and taking the medicine, but the they need to come back into the body. They need to come back into the nervous system and release some of that things and find safety. Because so many people that have been through abuse, even, men and women, even childhood abuse, you live in dysregulation. There's just no way that you don't. You live with that trauma in your body. And it's so important to come back home to yourself, come back home to your body and release so that you can live a fulfilling life and have good relationships. Co-regulation is a major thing. You've talked about how you teach your kids this. I teach my granddaughter this. My boyfriend, he knows all about my nervous system just from me talking. So like I said, I've lived in a lot of chaos. So in the beginning of our relationship, when there was a lot of boredom, what did my body automatically want to do? Start some chaos, and that I would, but he would bring it to my attention and then I would take myself out of it and realize what I was doing. But there again, we live on autopilot. So we always go back to what we're used to until we build that relationship with our nervous system and start making ourselves do something different.
Hmm. I think that's great because that's essentially what it is, right? It's everything that it comes down to. It's like learning how to ride a bike. When you first learn how to ride a bike, you're going to be a little, shaky and not as balanced. You might fall down, but even as parents, when your child is learning how to ride a bike and they fall down, do we say, "How dare you? How dare you fall down? You get back on the bike and I know you could do better." No, we encourage them. Like even just a little bit of wobbliness of being balanced, you are excited for them. You tell them that they're doing such a great job. You encourage them. That is the same thing when building connection and relationship back with our nervous system. We literally have to just retrain the nervous system and it's going to be wobbly. You're going to fall down. It might not feel good. But yeah, you do. You're able to get back on and retrain the movement and that auto response that your nervous system has for you.
Yes, yes. It's all about retraining the nervous system. And, you need your brain to do that, yes, but you need your body as well. Whenever we manifest, it's it's really good to not just visualize it, but feel it as well. So little things, even when you're making changes with your nervous system, imagine yourself in these changes. Feel that into your body, how it would be if you were the person who had daily joy in their life, or if you were the person who had safety in their body. What would that look like? How would you walk different? How would you carry yourself different? Just really start bringing that back into your body. And what that does is get your nervous system on board for the change that's coming. And change is not so as extremely hard that way if you start getting your body and your nervous system on board for it.
Yes, because then you're not going into autopilot of needing to create a safety, right? Whatever that safety response that your nervous system has already implanted, like, oh, we feel this way, so this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And it's retraining that part of it. Wow. But I think it's so interesting that we find, like AI, artificial intelligence, so fascinating. But did you know that artificial intelligence is just all the intelligence that humans already have?
Mm. Yeah.
And
Yes.
so it continues to seek artificial intelligence, the magnificence of that is training you to continue to seek outside of yourself for the information that you already know. And that is your nervous system. That is how smart and powerful we are as humans. Like, I don't know, sometimes it's the nervous system is so fucking cool that I was like, oh my God, we have one of these.
We do, we do, and I love that you said that too. I like to say about, but it's like like your body is the computer and your nervous system is the hard drive. And, you know,
Yes.
there's all your nervous system holds all of that stuff that's went on inside your life. So I like to really bring this in also that trauma doesn't have to be some awful thing like getting your ass beat or, being in a wreck. And I'll explain this in a tiny way from personal experience. My mom was an overweight child and adult. So she had trauma from that. She was picked on from that and things of that nature. So me growing up, it was always, you're so skinny, you're so pretty, you're so skinny, you're so pretty. Like I compared skinny to pretty. There was times I got back on meth in my life because I gained too much weight. So that's a trauma that when I started my healing journey, I had not really a trauma, but a learned behavior, a learned limited belief that lived within my nervous system that I had to, retrain myself around that. The weight is not the problem. It was always just her trauma. And so me and her have had that
Mm,
discussion, like, since I've been on my healing journey and things. But I just wanted to really bring that to play that you can have those limited beliefs and those things that other people have made you feel, those live in your body as well.
yeah.
It's not all about just the trauma. You have to retrain your brain, retrain your nervous system for a lot of different things. Yeah. So the
I love
small
that.
things
So,
are, yeah.
uh, I love that. So essentially, okay, so this is kind of what I'm feeling into is when we are talking about building a relationship with your nervous system as an adult that, has already experienced so much life, what you're doing is you're going back and you're building a relationship with the experiences that created that relationship, the response with your nervous system.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
think that that's beautiful because I think the mind is able to grasp that more than just healing. I think
Yeah.
healing seems scary for a lot of people because they're like, fuck, I'm fine. I'll be
Yeah.
okay. It's in the past, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about it, connecting with your nervous system and having the ability to lead from that space like humans were meant to, you're not just healing, you're going back and you're building a relationship with the experience that created that response in the
Mhm.
first place.
Yes. And
And
some,
what do you find when you have clients that are doing that? What's the time process? And I know everyone's different, but how quickly or how long can that process be?
whenever they're rebuilding that relationship, it took me, and I was very dysregulated, and it took me about 2 months to start really recognizing. Some of my clients, it'll take around that long. So what I like to focus on is first, when you first come to me, we work on building safety and we work on a little titration and the nervous system and things of that nature. And then we work on regulation, and then we can start releasing some of those traumas and rebuilding that relationship. And what you want to do there is go back and, like you said, you meet that part of you with compassion, with love, whatever it may need. So a lot of times a somatic session can look like me being the person that you might need to say a lot of things to, because even if it's not that person, if you're just saying them to me and getting them out, that is completing that survival response that didn't get to happen, and it takes the survival energy out of it and breaks the trigger so that your body doesn't keep responding. This really landed for me when I first learned somatics, because my partner then, we had been together going on 2 years, and he had a good relationship with his son's mother, and I loved that. Getting into our relationship, I loved that he had a good relationship because I've dealt with a lot of baby mama drama and baby daddy drama in my past. So I was really happy about that. And then I was at his house one day and he was going to pick up his son, and I stayed there and I got mad. I got real mad. I didn't want to in my mind. I didn't want to, but my body started reacting. My nervous system started reacting. I was ugly to him when he came back, like just short, you know. And I was just learning somatic. So I sat with myself and I sat with myself. And 3 out of 4 of my past serious relationships had cheated on me with their ex
Mm.
significant other. So my body was just, I was just reacting to all of that. And I sat with it that day and really got to the root problem, purged the energy out. And, the next time he went, it was a completely different experience.
I love that. So, like the simplicity of just being aware,
Yeah,
right?
awareness.
And knowing that, wow, I don't actually have to feel this way. And life and relationships don't have to always be in conflict or in right or wrong or looking
Yeah.
for something that isn't even there, right?
Yes. Yes, really. And somatic work is so, it's it's very simple once you learn, the simplicity of just a lot of it is just learning to be with yourself and meet yourself with love and compassion. That's why I say we start with the safety and the things like that first and the
Mm,
regulation before you dive into any trauma. You don't want to re-traumatize yourself.
yeah, I do know. And as humans, we do that quite often. And this is the spiral that I talk about. It's self-induced pain and suffering. We do it to ourselves. And so many of us then want to find someone or something to blame it on, right? That's where accountability comes in. And accountability itself, I've realized is a triggering thing. And I see it in our America today. Accountability is like it's resistance.
Very much.
It's what I feel. And it's not a bad thing. Like accountability is not a bad thing. And it's not to say, I think people relate to accountability to right or wrong. And for me, accountability is essentially coming into wholeness, coming into center with myself so that I can be accountable for the next step that I take or the next choice that I make, right?
Hmm.
Uh, yeah. And that's the connection with my body. It's so cool how I can navigate so effortlessly.
Yeah.
My past is still the same. My life is still the same. I still have 6 kids. I still
Yeah.
have a life that I'm responsible for. But the way that I navigate, the way that I lead, the way that I'm connected is so different. And that's the part where I can say in the testimony itself that that this is available to everybody. And it doesn't require you to have insurance. It doesn't require you to need to have a fancy job or anything like that. It doesn't matter what your status quo is. You're not searching for success with this. You're not chasing for money. You're not doing any of that. It is within you. You have it available to you right now.